RRSP money. How do you invest your RRSP money into a real estate? What are the ways for you to invest your money into a real estate? Well, there are different ways how you can invest your money into a real estate. Number one would be you buying and holding a property, and by buying and holding, meaning that you buying a property and you having it for rent, or you buying and flipping a property, which you buying a property and you having it for, and you flipping it and you renovating it for flips. So you basically renovating it for profit. And number three would be that you are the bank, that you are funding deals into a real estate. For example, if there's somebody that wants to have a mortgage that don't qualify, you give them your own money for a fee and you charge them fee just like what the bank does. So you're basically becoming a bank. So those are the three common ways how you can invest money into a real estate. So let's talk about this number three, which is funding your own money. There are different ways how you can fund your own money and lending it to people that wants to borrow money for the purpose of having a mortgage. You can lend your RSP money, you can lend your Lira money, you can lend your TFSA or cash. So these are the things that you can lend out there to somebody that needs a mortgage to fund a deal in real estate. So let's talk about the common ones, which is the RRSP, because most of the time we have money into an RRSP that are not performing. So I'm not gonna tell you which one is better, whether you use your RSP money to fund it into a real estate, to invest it into a real estate, or you have it into an RSP. So those are two different vehicle. But what I'm going to show you is a comparison, so you can have an idea of how your money would work. Because let's face it, most of us know that RSP money does not really perform, right? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Can you lose money into an RSP? Absolutely. Can you lose money in a real estate? For sure, 100%, right? Have I lost money in RSP? I have. Have I lost money in a real estate? I have. So I can show you both worlds that it may make sense to you, and it's up to you how you want to apply it. So let's talk about RSP. What is an RSP? So what an RSP is, that it's basically a retirement savings plan, right? The letter R in front of the RSP is basically saying that it's a registered, so that the government knows about this money, that if you withdraw it into a cash, it will trigger a double whammy taxes, and you will get taxed into your marginal tax rate, right? So by putting money into an RSP, it's usually useful for a first-time home buyer, but for a secondary homeowner, some people are saying that it's pretty much useless because you cannot use it for a secondary home unless you actually lend it out, right? Which I'm going to talk to you guys about. So let's talk about the performance of RRSP. Most of you know that if you put your money into an RRSP, let's just say that you put it in the GIC, it will perform, if you're lucky, it will perform in a rate of about 1% if you're lucky, 1 to 2%, right? Some people are saying that well, if you put it in a long term, right, that it might perform 8 to 12% in a long term, right? So let's talk about that for a second. So if let's just say that if I have a money that I put it into an RRSP back in 1980s, right? If I have 100,000 then, and I have 100,000 money that I put into a real estate, which one do you think that will perform faster? Is it the RRSP mutual fund way, or is it a real estate way? Because if you look at the property in the quantitative analysis, that a property that worth 100,000 in back in 1980s is probably worth about 1.8 million right now, right? So right there and then you can easily identify how the performance will go. So in a real estate, if you invest your money, or if you use your money, your RSP money, and to lend it into a mortgage, most of the time, right, your money will earn into like ranging from about 8% to 12% in a year. I'm talking about a year. I'm not talking about for the duration of 10 years, however your time horizon in the RSP. So in a year, you can probably make about 8% to 19%, depending on how you structure your own deal, right? And you can charge a brokerage fee and whatnot. And is there a risk of funding, of using your own RSP and funding it into a real estate? Absolutely. Is the risk more than the reward? Well, it depends, right? Because if I'm lending money and let's just say that I have my RSP money and I lend it out for 1 year. Let's just say that I have 100,000 on my RSP and I lend it out for 1 year in a 12% interest rate. That 100,000 that I have will make me about 12,000 in 1 year, right? So it's basically equivalent to about 1% per month. So that's the easiest for you to calculate how you can charge an interest in lending your own RSP money towards to fund real estate, because 12% in a 12 month is equivalent to about 1% per month, which translates to about $1,000 per month that they'll be paying you in an interest only form for the duration of 1 year. So in a year, you can make about 12% into funding a real estate deal. So if you compare this to an RRSP, so with the RRSP you have to pay your fund company. There's an MER. So depending on how much is the MER, 2.5% front end, back end load, right? So it's still going to be a load, right? So you still have to pay the management fee. So that's why if you see something that let's just say that your mutual fund performs in 12%, right? So by the time that the management dealer company takes out their own cut, it's no longer 12%, because that's how the management, that's how they make money in the management, by managing your own money into an RSP, right? So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that if you look at in the analogy of where your RSP money, if you invest it into a stocks, right? So which we don't know, which it's harder for us to quantify what the stocks will do, or you would put it into the RSP and you can get yourself a guaranteed return, which is ranging from, like what I said, what I've seen is they are charging 12% a year into from borrowing your own money, like whether it's a form of cash, lira, RSP, TFSA, and whatnot. So to me, it's no brainer, right? So some of you might be asking a question of who is in the right mind would borrow money in the rate of 12%, where you can get a mortgage from a bank from 1 to 2%, because right now we have a lower interest rate. And here's why would people would do that. There are people out there that wants to buy a property, whether it's an investment property, or they are short on cash to close a deal, right? And they have no choice but to borrow money as a secondary form of a mortgage, right? So they would tap into a higher interest rate. For example, if you are a investor, a real estate investor, and let's just say that I purchase a property, a dilapidated a property for 500,000, and this property have a huge land. If I put a triplex in this property, and I put in another 500,000 into this property, I would be able to sell that triplex for a 2.5 million, right? So does it make sense for this investor to borrow money? Absolutely. Because by borrowing other people's money, they are able to make a significant return on their investment, right? So if they cost them 12% in $500,000, what is that compared to what I can make about 1.5 million by borrowing $500,000 with a 12% interest rate? It's no brainer, right? That's why there are people out there that are borrowing this type of money in a form of secondary mortgage, right? In a higher interest rate for a gain. So if you like this kind of video and you want to learn more about how you can invest your RRSP money, mutual fund, your RRSP money that are underperforming, give me a call and I will show you how you can invest your real estate money into a secondary investment property.